Good morning. Bonjour. I think that's as far as my French goes. Sorry. I'll do better next time. I'm intentional about the events I support, choosing platform that value meaningful dialogues, shared learnings, and long-term community impact. And I want to first thank INCYBER Europe team, Emma, Alexa, and the entire INCYBER team. You've done a great job of bringing a community together with a purpose. My goal here is not to impress the audience, but express the reality. Take you on a real-world journey of having dealt with and come out winning on the back of one of the most sophisticated cyber attack of the decade. I'm not here for applause, but for a cause, to serve a community because we need to lead with we in this asymmetric battlefield. Okay, if the clicker works. Let me take you back in the evening of August 30th. I was at Coldplay concert with my teenage son. It was at Wembley Stadium, a grand event. It was a pre-birthday gift for my son. It was his first ever live concert. For him, it was a big moment. And if I'm honest, for me too. No emails, no calls, no dashboards, just music, lights, and one of those rare evenings where you feel fully present. Not as a CISO, not as a leader, not as an executive director, just as a dad, a father. I remember thinking, this is what work-life balance feels like. We got home late that night. I lived 2 hours away from Wembley Stadium, tired, happy, still talking about the event. And then the early hours, by the time I got home, it was 2 o'clock in the morning. By the time I slept, I think it was 3, half 3. And then very early hours of 31st of August, my phone rang. Not a message, not a notification, just a persistent call. The kind of call every CISO or security professional recognizes before they even answer. In that moment, the music stopped. Normal life paused. And the organization crisis plan began, but mine didn't. Because when the alarm sounds, the business activates its recovery plan, my life quietly went on hold. That was a moment I was reminded of something we don't talk about enough. Cyber incidents don't just test our systems, they test the people who carry out the decisions and the responsibility. And today, that's what I'm here to talk about. Not the technology, not the attack, the human reality of leading when the alarm sounds. When the alarm sounds, the organization activates its crisis plan. War rooms open, processes begin, something that rarely appears in incident report. This morning wasn't just a start of an incident. It was the start of days of uncertainty, constant decisions, incomplete information, contradicting information coming through, and the quiet weight of knowing that every choice could affect the business, our customers, our people. And I realized something. What stayed with me from that experience wasn't the incident itself. It was the realization that while the organization had a recovery plan, we spend a lot of time preparing organizations for cyber crisis, processes, playbooks, technologies. But rarely we prepare the people who have to lead when pressure becomes real. To give you some factual insight, we contained the attack within less than 4 hours, neutralized the payload within less than 6 hours. Day 2, I was already in the boardroom discussing the priorities of how do we do a phase restart, and restarted global operations in a matter of weeks, not months, and not succumbing to the attackers while we do it. Attackers didn't bring our global operations down, as media speculated and wrongly informed. It was my judgment, it was my decision on the day to shut it down in order to protect our brand, our business, our customers, our legacy. UK law enforcement, cybersecurity agencies recognized in an unsolicited feedback to our board of directors and my war room that how well thought and exemplary was our strategy and tactics and incident response in containing the incident so swiftly, and something they hadn't seen in previous events they were supporting. Without what we had built and practiced over the years, the situation could have been a lot more worse. And when the alarm sounds, the real challenge isn't the technology, it's the leadership, it's the judgment, it's the human capacity to make the right decisions when there is no perfect information. And that's the conversation you and I are having today. When the alarm sounds, the organization moves quickly. But the hardest part isn't the attack. It's the decisions. When cybersecurity attack unfolds, something interesting happens. I spun up my war room. I took charge as a leader. My team and other technology teams began investigating. Signals started coming in from different directions. Some of the information is clear, much of it isn't. And at the same time, the organization is looking for answers. I had my own mental chatter pacing at a decision I had to make. Should I shut systems down or keep operations running? Do I communicate immediately or shall I wait? Do I prioritize business continuity or risk containment? Every decision carried consequences. Operational consequences, financial consequences, reputational consequences, people consequences, supply chain consequences, and customer consequences. And the truth is, these decisions are rarely made with perfect information. There is no perfect visibility, no complete picture, just fragments of insight and responsibility to act. No perfect information, just fragments. No perfect decision, just leadership and best judgment in the moment. And in these moments, cybersecurity stops being a technical problem. It becomes a leadership moment. And what people really see is what these moments feel like for the person carrying these decisions. On purpose, there are no points on this slide. I just want to share a calm realization of my story that I'd like you to listen. Because when cyber crisis unfolds, the organization activates its recovery plan, but the person leading it does not get one. When an incident like this happens, organizations move in crisis mode. As I said earlier, war rooms are starting to mature, teams mobilize in all directions, forensic processes are moving at F1 pace, prioritizations and recovery decisions are moving at a god speed, but something else happens quietly in the background. My life went on quiet hold. Days blur into nights. You stop eating properly. You forget when you slept last. Sometimes I realized that I hadn't even taken a shower. I'd been on the same t-shirt and pair of jeans for 5 days. As a leader, you are looking at your teams. Shift work begins. I'm not talking 5-6 hour shift. We're talking 20 and above hour shift. I'm checking on their well-being, making sure they don't burn out. But a question starts to creep in. Who's looking after mine? Because you as a CISO are on a 24-hour shift. There are nights when you sit alone in a hotel room. I hadn't gone home for weeks. The phone finally stops ringing. The war room goes on quiet, but the work is still happening behind the scene. And in that silence, the weight arrives. You haven't spoken to your family. You don't know where your partner is. How is she managing everything at home? How is she managing work? Is she well or not well? Does she need any support? No idea. My children, how are they going to school? My house, hope everything is okay. Is there a plumbing issue? Is there an electricity issue? And then their own worries about what they are seeing in the news. What my teenage son is thinking when there is a lot of speculation, wrong information floating around, judgment being made by everybody is a chief critical officer all of a sudden, right? You need to go on LinkedIn, social media, everybody is criticizing. What is my son thinking? In my case, there were even moments when I didn't know if my extended family back in Nepal, I've got Nepalese heritage, was safe during the unrest of September 8th and September 9th, the Gen Z revolution that was happening. And all while this is happening, the pressure keeps building. The boardroom wants answer. The media is speculating. A lot of incorrect information is out there. Some of it is correct. Live investigation is moving at a light speed. Politics and blame games starts inside the organization. Regulators, law enforcement, legal are all on your back. And everyone needs something from you. And then there is another pressure that never stops, that we rarely get to see. The attacker themselves. They were harassing. The messages, the threats, the constant attempts to intimidate and to destabilize, to push not just the organization, but to a breaking point. It feels like everything around you is tightening at once. You know, the harassments that is coming through in different forms. I didn't sign up to be a CISO for that kind of thing. It looked like a moment that could explode any second. And in that quiet moments, another voice appears. Did I make the right decision? And every leader knows that. You go through this. What if I'm wrong? Because I was at some point also briefing UK government as well, because we were almost 1% of UK GDP. Because in cyber crisis, you're protecting everyone else, but very few people realize who's protecting the person making the decisions. Realize that sometimes the person that is waiting to push you is you. It is not that no one cares, but situation is it hands responsibility back to you. Despite all of this pressure, here's the thing. I didn't quit. I told myself I can be tired and I can be worn out, but nothing is going to stop me. I showed up every day for my team to lead my war room and to lead with confidence regardless of the weight. And when you step back from moments like that, you begin to see something clearly. Cyber resilience isn't about just technology. It's about people. We talk about cyber resilience. The conversation usually starts with technology, firewalls, detection systems, threat intelligence, response platform. Trust me, all of that matters. But when the alarm sounds, when systems are failing, when decisions need to be made in seconds, technology is only part of the story. Because in that moment, something else determines the outcome. Do leaders trust each other? Are decisions clear? Is the organization aligned? Can people act quickly without hesitation? The organizations that truly stay resilient are not simply the ones with most sophisticated technology. Trust me, I had plenty of those. They are the ones where leaders can make confident decisions when the picture is incomplete, where the teams can trust each other when the pressure rises, where leadership shows up when the moment is hardest. Because when the alarm sounds, cyber resilience is not just technical, it's human. Technology may detect the problem, but the leadership determines the outcome. Cyber resilience is ultimately about building organizations where leaders can respond thoughtfully and decisively when challenges arise. Listen, cyber attack can happen to any organization, to any leader. It doesn't matter how large you are, how sophisticated your technology is, or how mature the security program appears, or the awards that you have won. Trust me, I had 5 awards, yet I bled in that war. Best strategy, operating model, security operations, etc. In today's interconnected digital world, no organization is completely immune. There will be times when you will fall in this asymmetric battlefield. Accept it. It is not a traditional message for a keynote, I know, but I'm speaking from the place of truth and reality. Not to discourage, but to do exact opposite, to encourage you, to embrace it is inevitable, so that you can prepare better, so that you can fall forward, like I and my team did. You don't prepare for enemy not coming at the gate, but how prepared are you to welcome them when they fall forward? We had best technologies, multi-award-winning strategies and operations. The point is, every CISO and the organizations have got strategies and talent to succeed, but do you have the guts to fall and yet not fail? And bounce back with strength. We fell. But that was not our failure, nor was it the end. As a lot of speculation was out, as a matter of fact, that was the very moment we calmly and precisely exhibited our strength, our resilience, agility in navigating and decision-making, and with confidence. The enemy at the gate did underestimate us. My team and I didn't quit. We fell forward and responded in a way that no industry has to date, in an exemplary way. So, everybody has a plan until they get punched on the face, right? The truth is, none of us are facing this challenge alone. In this interconnected digital world, today we depend on what was built. Today was built by us, right? Technology leaders, businesses, governments, platforms. Together we created this ecosystem of opportunity, but also an ecosystem of risk, which means the path forward cannot be individual. It has to be collective. The future of cybersecurity will not be built by organizations protecting themselves in isolation. It will be built by communities working differently through collaboration, through co-creation and shared responsibility. We build this digital world together, and together we have the responsibility to protect it. What stands out most in the events like this is the weight of the responsibility that comes with the role. The role has moved from protection and the business risk leadership to protecting the way of life in the current modern era. CISO needs to be a strong communicator, influencer, and a decision leadership skills, and not just technical expertise. Because when the alarm sounds, that responsibility still lands on someone. And in many organizations, that someone is sitting in this room today. I remember a moment during a short break in my war room when a UK law enforcement lead in my war room told me that I was a war veteran now and I should write a book and share my thought leadership, my strategies and my battlefield tactics about how well we contained and responded to the situation. But I started thinking bigger. Within Global, I'm advancing a movement, a purpose by design security to make this interconnected world safer, secure, more trusted, and with human at its core, and protect the global economy at large. To serve the leaders and the community who are in this asymmetric battlefield, leading with relentless effort, tirelessly, selflessly, and with every little you have. I'm with you. This cannot be won in isolation, and none of this gets done alone, because what is at risk is the way of life and livelihood in this modern-day world, and not simply reputation and the financial resilience of an organization. I'm focused with we. I am focused in being beacon, a light, a navigator. You are not alone. Thank you.
Shrestha.